The Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry predicts 3% growth for Nigeria this year, 2018. Economic watchers now say the non-oil sector, particularly manufacturing, could help attain this growth if its limitations are tackled. Lara Folayan reports.
Infrastructure deficit, funding, multiple taxation, skills gap, and even the attitude of Nigerians to locally produced goods remain challenges to manufacturing in the country. But these setbacks did not prevent the sector from recording some growth in 2017, as the Purchasing Managers Index PMI, which indicates the sector's health, increased by over 50% during the year to stand at 59.6% in December. The PMI's growth helped enhance the country's exit from recession. Analysts are positive ongoing economic reforms contributed to this growth.
A lot of reforms, like you said, are taking place. A lot of incentives are also being given to the manufacturing sector. The growth pattern is also being seen, and we are seeing the PMI increasing every time, every month, and every quarter is increasing. But we can still do more than what we're doing right now.
Already, the Lagos Chamber of Commerce's economic outlook for the year predicts a 3 to 4% growth for Nigeria, an assumption based on prevailing economic fundamentals and the government's commitment to sustaining ongoing economic reforms. Economic watchers say manufacturing could contribute to achieving this growth if its problems are effectively solved.
Those things we can manufacture in this country should never be allowed to be imported. So if you restrict importation, rice is doing well today because rice importation has been restricted drastically. If you restrict any other importation of, say, tomato paste, just like they have done recently, you see that a good number of tomato paste companies are going to be springing up. When you have up to 30 to 40 manufacturing companies assemble themselves within a park and sharing services and sharing facilities, you see that the cost of manufacturing will be reduced drastically.
Ensure that the business environment is eased, because we cannot say there are lots of opportunities to get microcredit facilities, and these credit facilities are not getting into the hands of these business owners. We need to work smart, talking about being innovative, being able to employ technology in our businesses, in our activities, and in the things we do. If we are able to begin to think the ways we haven't thought before, I think the economy will have a new turn.
One thing we need to do is just to make sure we have more access to loan, because there is no way you can do business with your own money. It's not easy. You need to access loan. So they need to provide it in a segmental manner, that this is for this category, this for this category. Then I think BOI is doing it, but they should do more. They should go to the grassroots and empower people.
The economic outlook suggests a reduction in the multiplicity of exchange rates, alignment of procurement policies at all levels of government for domestic investment support, as well as aggressive investments in infrastructure to achieve the projection. The World Bank's Africa Pulse report last year predicted a modest 1% growth for the Nigerian economy in 2018. Lara Folayan, TVC News, Abuja.
Well, projecting for 2018, I have with me in the studio Head of Research, FSDH Merchant Bank, Ayo Akinwunmi. Thank you very much, Mr. Akinwunmi.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, compliments of the season, I must say that.
I wish the same.
Well, let's start this way. Lots of figures are coming out, projections for 2018. In your words, what are your projections? What do you think? What are expectations from FSDH research?
Thank you very much for having me. We are going to release a forecast outlook for the next 5 years, sometimes next week. Okay. The broad sense, it is showing that this year will be better than what we had last year. A lot of improvement in relative terms, but still far lower than where we should be as a country. Our projections is in a region of over 3% for this year, which is a little bit higher than what the IMF is saying, but their latest visit to Nigeria, 2.1. Again, we look at agriculture as at Q3, accounting for about 29% of the GDP. We look at oil, we look at trades, we look at ICT. Biggest sectors of the economy didn't do well last year. I think among the first 9 leading economic sectors in the Nigerian economy, it was only agriculture and oil, mining and quarry that did well last year. As at Q3, the GDP number that was released, 1.4, I think we released a note after that in November to say that that growth rate was still very fragile, of course, boosted by the oil price increase, which encouraged activities in that sector. For us, we think that there are a lot of innovation, and there are improvement in agriculture. I mean, we're beginning to read now, beginning to eat a lot of locally produced rice. And I think in the newspaper this week, we read that the federal government is going to ban importation of rice. The current foreign exchange policy of federal government, Central Bank of Nigeria has encouraged local production of things that we can produce in Nigeria and made some, imported goods very expensive. We think that that will encourage more production. The foreign exchange rate policy that Central Bank has put in place from the investor and exporters window has also encouraged, inspired confidence from foreign investors, has brought in a lot of foreign inflows. External reserve is going up. It's possible that it hit $40 billion this year, which will also go a long way to support the stability in the foreign exchange market that we are seeing at the moment. Everything is still predicated, although on the current oil price, because if there is a shock from that level, that may likely impact on Nigeria. But beyond that, I think that even at 3% growth rate, is still lower than where we should be, because if the population is growing at 2.7%, we need to grow at least double of our population growth rate in GDP to enable us to have a growth that will be inclusive, that will translate to improved welfare for Nigeria, and that people that we can be proud of. Okay, but then improvements, so government needs a little bit more policies. They need to inspire confidence in the investing public. They need to encourage the private sector to improve on infrastructure, to make Nigerian more competitive, and then encourage, maybe provide for fiscal incentive that will encourage both small scale and large scale businesses that will, invest in Nigeria to produce a job.
Now, I want to talk, before I move to, I want to talk on this oil price we're talking about, the upsurge which we have, that's this rise. We're looking at $66 now, I think 64, 66. But it's impacting negatively now, the landing cost of petroleum products and why we have this scarcity. I'm wondering, these figures, will it not be affected by this? Scarcity is almost 1 month now. Will there not be any effect of this?
I think we all know this, and I think have discussed this same issue a number of times on this same program, saying that it's just simple computation. Pick up the pricing template of the PPRA for the PMS price, pump price, plug in the exchange rate at 285 when the NNPC, when the federal government fixed price at 145. Oil price, crude oil price at the international market then was at $44 per barrel. Exchange rate 285, and then crude oil price has since gone to over $65 per barrel. We've seen exchange rate at 306. I think that's the level at which they are importing, assessing dollars to import products. There is no way you can have 145 any longer. However, looking at the budget, the government does not make provision for for subsidy in the budget. So I think what the federal government needs to do, and all this shift of blame and saying, oh, it is marketers, that's not the solution. Let's go to the root cause of the issue and attack it. What the federal government is doing, and NNPC and the ministry involved, for me, is not the best way to go. Let's speak confidence. Let's address the fundamental issue. Do we need to pay subsidy? If the answer is yes, let's make provision for it. Because the way we are going, a lot of people are making a permutating number and saying, if federal government does not have provision for subsidy, would they then go ahead and borrow money that will increase the fiscal deficit that we're going to have next year, and therefore the gain that we have seen now in treasury bill, drop in treasury bill, will they expand the fiscal deficit that will impact also on the ability to borrow from the local market and crowd out the private sector? Or are we going to continue this way? Because if they don't come up with clear policies that people will believe, there will be a rational decision. It will hurt the economy, and therefore, the projections we are seeing, it will make a mess of it. And the federal government needs to come up quickly and tell us. I mean, today we are before I came to this program, I read in the newspaper and online that what the NNPC group manager director is saying is slightly different from what the minister for state for petroleum is saying. So which one are we going to believe?
That's been the topic of discourse today on most of all our shows, talking about, you know, these issues. Let's go back to looking at the non-oil sector and manufacturing now, because these are sectors that we believe could actually reactivate and rejig, you know, actually project for the projections that we are looking at. What do you think? How far have we gone, and what do we really need to do to get all these sectors right? Because let's look away from this oil for now.
I think it's very simple. We are not competitive. Goods that are manufactured in Far Asia, brought to Nigeria, are cheaper because of our state of infrastructure. And we have said it a number of times. Federal government, in addition to all the various state governments, do not have the required capital to bring our infrastructure to a level whereby they will make our manufacturing sector and non-oil sector very competitive. What then do they need to do? Involve the private sector, give them incentives, similar to what they have done with Dangote Group, with fixing the road in Apapa area. Involve various different private sector, both locally and internationally, and let them come and see how they can help with this. Fix power, because the cost of running diesel energy to produce products in Nigeria here is too high. Fix the various bottlenecks that are adding cost to production process. Then encourage agriculture, encourage farming so that they can produce inputs that are required for manufacturing process, right? And so that there will be like, backward integration, a linkage between the manufacturing sector and the agricultural sector. In some countries, government, guarantee farmers a level of pricing for their produce, such that if they produce and there is a glut, there is a market. Government can buy those things from them, and it will encourage them to go and produce. So those are various measures I think we need to put in place in Nigeria that will make Nigeria growth, broad-based, that will not, because of the way we are today, mining and quarrying grew by about 25% last Q3 last year. If there is a shock in oil price today, Nigeria will be in trouble. So the growth is not broad-based. We need to encourage non-oil growth sector. I mean, we also have solid mineral spread across the country. Give investors incentive to go and prospect for those things and then sell license to operators and let them mine it so that we can make money from all this. Develop our tourism also, and then so that we have income, generate income that are not volatile, that are not, subject to external volatility. And those are part of the issues that the IMF raised in their last note I released in December to the Nigerian government. And I think that government needs to, this is the time for them to actually put their policy around those areas that will, move the economy forward.
Head of Research, FSDH Merchant Bank, Ayo Akinwunmi, I must really thank you for sharing your thoughts with us, projections for 2018 and what we should expect. Thank you for spending your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, we'll take a break.